If there is to be war, let our enemies start it, over an incident so innocent, so harmless, that their disproportionate response is as obvious to the world as circumstances can make it. An incident as innocent as a Danish cartoon, or as an English allusion to what the Koran calls the Satan-inspired verses, which are Surah 53, 19 to 22, which the Quran confesses in Surah 22, 52 to 53, were inspired by Satan. Or the September 11th coming burning of a Quran by Dove World Outreach, which is bringing the wrath of a government and Christians, even though everyone tolerated the June 2005 desecration of an American flag by Muslims, which they brazenly filmed and posted on the internet under a banner, "O Muslims, do you know your enemy? Isn't it obvious?" You can see this at www.wnd.com/?PAGEID equals 30701. But I prefer there be no war. I prefer that Muslim moderates prove themselves truly moderate. Now let me tell you about the dream I had, which woke me up at 3 a.m. and wouldn't let me go back to sleep until I had written most of this article. I dreamed that I was in some kind of meeting room with a few metal folding chairs that became flooded. The water was about 7 feet deep. No one could swim or float. Perhaps our clothes were too heavy. But the water was clear, so we could see the folding chairs, and all the people had to do was walk over to a folding chair and stand on it, and they could breathe. Which I did, but I saw that no one else did. People just stood where they were, slowly dying, apparently not caring. So I started walking to people, picking them up and standing them on a chair, and then they would revive and breathe. I can see the oxygen returning to them, life returning to them. Although even then they did not participate in saving themselves, but it was like moving dummies, that is, mannequins. The third or fourth person I saved like that thrashed a bit, making it hard to lift him up on a chair. One of his arms flopped and hit my head a couple of times as I had him up on the chair, and that caused me to slip, leaving him at an angle so he would fall right back off as soon as I let go. While I was struggling to get him standing on the chair, I woke up. So my wife's arm had flopped and hit my head. If that has ever happened before, it was many years ago. We Americans have allowed a flood of political correctness to suck out all the oxygen we call freedom of speech. And we stand around unconcerned as our freedoms slowly die. There are a few of us working to lift our neighbors up to the fresh air of truth, but we do so at the risk of occasionally getting beaten up for it. It is wonderful that so far in America, we live mostly in physical safety, and our beatings are only of our reputations and our businesses and our social lives. Yet even that little risk is enough to make too many Americans just stand still and slowly expire. The only thing new about the threat from radical Muslims is the threat we perceive that the violence may become physical. But American Christians in particular have long nurtured the habit of refraining from quoting God during public discussions, even when the reason they hold their positions is because they read them in the Bible. Here's how God describes this flood immersing our freedom of religious expression, which is sucking the oxygen of freedom out of us. Matthew 5:13. Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works, and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Thus I am a Republican candidate who is committed to almost all of the Republican platform, but what makes me controversial is that I publicly quote some of the scriptures upon which it is based. And I use God's terminology to describe issues which, in a world where news reporters will not print the scriptures I quote, at least they will quote the Bible words I use to prove how offensive I am, like sodomite, which reminds people that there is a God who has an opinion on this subject. I expect sinners to hate me for reminding them about God, but I can't get used to having Christians tell me that as long as I use Bible words, they can't take my campaign seriously. The mountain I want to move into the sea that dwarfs my goal of ending abortion in a few months, lowering the divorce rate, stopping stupid spending, or reversing sodomite marriage is getting Christians to stop being ashamed of quoting God in public, when that is the best way to explain their positions. Islam emphatically denies that Jesus is the Son of God. Surah 4:171 says, O followers of the book, do not exceed the limits in your religion, and do not, the book, that means Christians and Jews, do not exceed the limits in your religion, and do not speak lies against God, but speak the truth. The Messiah, Isa, their way of saying Jesus, Isa, son of Mariam, Jesus, son of Mary, is only an apostle of God. Believe, therefore, in God and his apostles, and say not three. In other words, there's not three in one, there's just one. Say not three, desist, it is better for you. God is only one God. Far be it from his glory that he should have a son. Whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth is his, and God is sufficient for a protector. The Bible takes a dim view of that denial, calling it Antichrist. 1 John 2, verse 22 says, Who is a liar but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist, that denieth the Father and the Son. Dare we state truths like this? America, allow our evidence that our words are true to be accepted as a defense against the charge that someone has chosen to be offended by them. America, allow our evidence that our words are the words chosen by a loving God to be accepted as a defense against the charge that our words are hate speech